Hi, everyone. This is Pat Larsen from ZenLedger, and joining us today is Alex from Lolli. We're gonna talk a little bit about what Lolli is all about and what they're doing. As a quick intro to ZenLedger, ZenLedger is a tax software for cryptocurrency investors and tax professionals. We'll bring all your trades together across all your wallets and exchanges, produce your tax forms for you, and give you great insight into tax optimization, like tax loss harvesting, looking at your portfolio, and we have great customer service to take you through it all. So July 15th tax deadline is coming up, and no one needs more stress right now. So just go over to zenledger.io, create a free account, ask us any questions you need, and if you'd like to, use the coupon code LOLLI, LOLLI, for 20% off. And with that, Alex, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name's Alex. I'm the one of the founders of Lolli. We've created the easiest way we think to earn Bitcoin, to get into Bitcoin, and earn Bitcoin when you shop. So we are a Bitcoin rewards company. You can download the Chrome extension, Firefox, Edge extensions, and start earning up to 30% back on everyday purchases today.
Yeah, I've used Lolly for several purchases, and I'm actually in a cabin right now and used VRBO for it and Lolly. So thanks for that.
Oh, nice. That's one of our like most low key top partners. Verbo is incredible. Like people have earned an insane amount from them. So it's a good one. Good pick.
Yeah, it makes a lot more sense for me. Like it's hard to get excited about 50 sats, but when I'm spending on a vacation rental, like it feels good to earn some coins back.
Yeah, stack those sats.
So do you want to talk a little bit about like how you guys created Lolly and how you got here?
Yeah. So it all started. I would say about. I mean, I guess when I was in college, I was studying economics and really like microfinance and really fascinated with this idea of the democratization of commerce. How do you give everyone in the world the ability to buy, sell, trade with each other, regardless of like your geographic constraints, fiat constraints, really. So started building this company called Cosmic. We created this e-commerce gateway that let merchants sell their products anywhere and consumers buy anywhere. And we were one of the inventors of what became known as the buy button. So let people buy from any publisher site, any ad, any video. It was really cool technology. Would do like all dynamic information transfer. It was fun. It was a fun few years of building before we ended up getting acquired by our biggest customer, which was Pop Sugar, to come in and power over $1 billion in retail revenue that they were doing through their shop style program or platform. So fast forward about a year, even bigger company came along, Rakuten, the biggest cashback company in the U.S. and many parts of the world, came along and bought us away from Pop Sugar. So we got to learn like the reward space, the cashback space, and we had been powering a lot of these and in diligence with a lot of these different providers over the years. And yeah, just had a very interesting little over a year at Rakuten. And while we were there, I was just like really fascinated with this idea of giving people rewards back and also knowing everything I had known about Bitcoin, having gotten into Bitcoin, prior, um, and being fascinated with Bitcoin because it was a asset that anyone in the world can own. And as we were building Cosmic, we were talking to all these merchants, and because we powered a lot of the payments of these gateways, we brought Bitcoin to these merchants. And we I think learned early on that payments for Bitcoin was not going to be the most pervasive part of the technology. Merchants didn't want to hold Bitcoin. They didn't want the volatility of Bitcoin. So what we found is like we were like, okay, well, let's not introduce Bitcoin now. Let's wait on it. And while we were at Rakuten, we kept looking at this problem, being like, well, Bitcoin is sort of reaching this cap after it reached investors, where it's not breaking through to mainstream. It's not getting through to all these consumers. And we're sitting at this company, and like we have like tens of millions of users at Rakuten that like love their cash back, that love getting the rewards. So how do we bridge this gap of like distributing Bitcoin to people through rewards. And if the everyday consumer that's already shopping can have upside in the future of Bitcoin, that's a win-win for everybody.
Hmm.
So after we parted ways with Rakuten, we started to look at what problem we wanted to solve. We basically just rebuilt Rakuten from scratch and started Lolli about 2 years ago. Since then, we have brought on over 1,000 merchants. We have distributed hundreds of thousands of dollars in Bitcoin to our users, and seen a ton of success in distributing Bitcoin to people. So far, things have gone really well. We've been building with the same team as our last company, and adding a few more amazing people. And yeah, it's been an incredible ride so far, and we are on this mission to distribute Bitcoin to more people, make it more easily accessible to all. And so far, so good.
No, that really reminds me of an interview Justin from Justin TV and Twitch
Yeah,
said, and he's like, you should take. There's one of two types of risk you should take in startups. One is market risk, and that's when you don't know if there's a market, and you kind of have to invent something new. And then the other is just execution risk, and that's when you're like doing better on efficiency. So for him, Justin TV was market risk because he didn't know if anyone would want to watch someone else do anything. And then lots of pivots, and then it became Twitch. And then his new one, Atrium, is like, I know legal services are a huge thing, and I know they're a huge pain point, so I'm just going to make it better. And so, can I out execute, right? And it seems like you just in crypto, it seems like a lot of people took market risk when they're trying to build these new protocols and use cases, and they haven't worked out. But you applied it to e-commerce, where that there's just tons of stuff happening there already.
yeah, we tried intentionally, like we looked at all these different technologies that we could build, especially on Web3, and I couldn't get excited. Like I was excited about them as a consumer, and I was really interested in them, but I've still to date never had a Web3 experience that I would share with my sister, my mom, my friends from back home, and I just don't. Um, I'm always looking for better UI, better UX. I just haven't seen it yet.
Mhm.
So I think for now these like Web3 technologies are on these fringe, in these like sort of fringe parts of the internet, but I didn't want to wait. And I think that there's a really big opportunity to create this sort of wedge and get a head start and then start to build on top of that. So you all are very similar with like ZenLedger. Like people know tax software, like they need these tools. And there's all these, archaic companies that are not doing it. And so you guys can build this tool that hooks into these and sort of does this like Trojan horse approach. And as the world starts to transition to more crypto transactions, and like that GDP gets bigger, where TurboTax sort of caps out on a domestic level, you all can go international because you're just international tax software essentially,
Mhm.
that doesn't have the same fiat constraints that I think a lot of these like turbo taxes of the world have. So I see it with your business. I love your business. I think it's really brilliant. If I knew more about taxes, I think it would be a really cool business to build. And so I'm glad that you're solving it. And then yeah, I mean we've built it from day one with our business, where we know the rewards business. We know that consumers like love rewards, and we've met with just about every retailer in North America over the last 8 years. So I think we have a little bit of a competitive advantage as we built this. And we know there's like a product market fit for other rewards companies. So we have a long way to go, but early days look good.
Yeah, I agree. You should never fight fair. You should
Yeah.
always be going where you have a massive advantage. Totally agree. Um, well, that's cool. Let's see here. So, how do you think this COVID era is affecting e-commerce broadly, and then Lolly and crypto?
Yeah, great question. We bucket out a lot of our merchants into two categories, two main categories. We have like travel, non-travel, and non-travel has increased dramatically since COVID. People are shopping online. We don't really do too many. merchants that are in store. We do a lot of in-store pickup, but that starts online, and so groceries done really incredible. Like all the Albertson brands have done incredibly well. Safeway, Chewy, all like pet food has like was one of like our top merchants. Nutrition, health, fitness, online education. We had we had recently signed Udemy and Coursera, a few others on there. But yeah, a lot of these merchants back in like late January, early February, we had a ton of our sales were travel, and I was following Balaji on Twitter. If you follow him, and he was super early on calling out all this stuff that was going on with COVID. This was back when like the who was like saying like you don't even need a mask, like this isn't going to be a big deal. China wasn't releasing any information about it,
Mhm.
and so I'm following him on Twitter, and I'm like, oh my god, this thing, if there's a 10% chance he's right, this is going to be really, really bad. So I started prepping personally, and then I started also prepping the company, and we like ripped out our marketing plan. It was like take away all travel, focus entirely on all online, all things that are going to be good in this environment that we're probably all going to be, working from home. So we took an early bet there, and I feel like we felt crazy for about a month, and then I was really glad we did because we course corrected, and now we just had our best month yet as far as the business goes. And when we do well, our users do well. Like that's the thing I think a lot of people don't understand about our business. But we only make money when our users make like earn Bitcoin.
Mhm.
So when we do well, when we had our best month, that means like we gave out the most amount of Bitcoin last month that we ever have given. So we were pretty proud of that.
That's really cool. Yeah, I guess like yeah, just so much of our economic activity had to move online to e-commerce and everything. So, kudos to you. Like sometimes you don't know that you're going to where the puck is going, but it just comes to you anyway, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Like in general in crypto and Web 3.0 that you were talking about, do you see any other like kind of interesting trends or developments in the industry?
Yeah, I follow the Lightning network space really closely. That's probably the area that I think we're going to see the biggest adoption on like the payment side. I still think we're a little bit off from like true mass adoption there. People just don't want to pay with Bitcoin. That's not going to change.
Mhm.
I think that the things that get really interesting to me are like stable coins. I would consider myself a closer to a Bitcoin maximalist, but I wouldn't say that I'm dogmatic about anything in life. I try to keep an open mind with all things, and it's served me well so far. Um, I I think that in the long term, Bitcoin will be the currency that everybody uses. That we will reach this state of hyper Bitcoinization over the next 20 years. I don't know if like when that's going to hit, but I take a very like long view with Bitcoin or something very very similar to Bitcoin, just because of the sheer principles of it.
Mhm.
And then but in the next 10 years, the next 5 years, I think that stable coins are probably going to jumpstart crypto adoption and may even overtake Bitcoin for a while, because it's going to be used so freely. So I follow a lot of different stable coins and like a lot of different methods for like and like how the private sector is adopting it, how payment networks, how my payment friends are using it. But those are probably the two biggest things, like Lightning development and stablecoin development, and then private sector adoption of both of those.
Yeah, I think this economic crisis is kind of like a really interesting point because everyone who's big into crypto is like, oh, this is a situation we're waiting for, right? Like, let's see what Venezuela does. Let's see what Argentina does. Oh, every major central bank is printing like crazy while we're talking about massive unemployment and UBI and deficits and everything. Like, this is exactly what Bitcoin was built for.
Exactly, it's the perfect storm, and it's sad in a big way because like I think most of I think the smartest people I've talked to, and even like economists and will say this. It's like that economists that like believe in Bitcoin. The will say that it's like the revolution's not going to be pretty, and I agree with that. I think I never anticipated it being like this, but when you look at like black swan moments throughout history, it looks a lot like this. So if there is going to be this adoption of Bitcoin, if not COVID, it will be something very similar to COVID, and this I think accelerated I probably I think my guess would have been like 20, 30 years. Now the Bitcoin adoption could very well happen over the next like 10 to 20 years. And so it might have jump started Bitcoin adoption and sound money adoption faster than we thought. Like I ask a lot of my friends from back home, like when was the last time you used cash? Like when was the last time you touched currency? Like swiped your credit card? Like a lot of people just are not using payments in the same way. So when we go start going back to payments, like we're gonna, we'll have been paying on our desktops or our mobile devices and buying online. Like it should jumpstart leapfrog a lot of more archaic technologies um, over these next few months and years.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Asia has had the payment rails up for longer, but someone who's 20 years old now who just taps their phone to pay, like it wouldn't occur to them to like take coins, right? Like quarters and pennies and
Totally.
stuff. Like what is this? Where do I put them? I don't, like,
Right?
what, I have to go to a bank and then I try to get the paper money from the metal money, like
What? Yeah.
yeah, so that is an interesting thing, and yeah, digitization of our economies is obviously a long term trend, and all our dollars have already been digitized for some time. So
Mhm.
I don't think that's the major conceptual leap that that we have to worry about.
Yeah, I agree.
Um, so in terms of how you think like uh, of where Lolly's gonna go. Do you have any like are there big inflection points or right now you're just on this like 1, 2, 3 year glide slope where you're like, oh okay, I see where we need to go, like that's where we're going.
Yeah, I think we've predicted the first 2 years pretty accurately. I don't think we've seen any. I mean, for one, we haven't seen a an upswing in the market since 2017. It's been pretty consistent. Like when we launched, Bitcoin was around like 3,800. So our users have been very happy that
Mhm.
effectively Lolly is 2 times or 3 times better than Rakuten and cashback companies because they've earned 2 or 3 times as much.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that other than that, like we haven't really seen this like dramatic rise. We haven't seen this like rush of like 100 million people getting into crypto, and and so really, I mean, you probably have done this as well. Like you don't make projections based on things that you can't control.
Hmm.
So we operate our business very similarly to any cashback company, but we do have the upside of promoting based on price. So yeah, we have I think predicted the last 2 years. I think we have a pretty good understanding of how the next 5 years will look. But there's a lot that's going to happen on Lightning development. There's a lot that's going to happen on stablecoin development that we are probably going to want to be on top of. I think those are the two most interesting things going on in crypto right now. And clearly, there's tons of like experiments going on with like prediction markets and token, sales and stuff like that. I don't really. I think there's so much going on right now, and I'm fine like not paying attention to it because it is like it like it's a full-time job. Being an investor is like a full-time job, and there's a reason why I'm building a company and I'm not a investor. I don't really enjoy it. I don't actually like love investing in Bitcoin. I just hold. I believe in Bitcoin. I believe in the principles. I don't day trade it. I just hold it. And the I think the same is true for many people in the world. Like they most people I think are not investors at their core.
Hmm.
And there's things like Robinhood and Coinbase that have turned probably more people into investors. And I think it's good for people to like learn about finance, learn about market caps and how businesses work. But I don't actually think that like we're gonna find mass adoption of crypto if we just shill a bunch of coins and deliver all these different ways for people to invest in highly volatile, very, very risky assets because people are going to get burned. People
Mhm.
already get burned with like stock markets. Like people are going to get absolutely wrecked in crypto markets.
Mhm.
And so I actually feel like you need to have some form of self control so that it's not just like a giant lottery. And you need some form of education that happens on the onboarding. Otherwise, I think you're going to build like a very bad taste in a lot of people's mouths with shilling things that are probably not real.
Yeah. I mean, that's a big part of what we do once someone decides to work with us is inform them on tax law. That's like a big part of it, and what's conservative and what's aggressive, and like our customers are very self-selected into people who are investing and or speculating in cryptocurrency, and then like usually they're also doing it in stocks or they have real estate, like they're mixing it up, and they usually employ a tax professional too. So I have like a different slice of the market. I think your customer base is much broader. um, but yeah, like, oh, so to mention the Lolli rewards, this is probably just interesting for everyone, but when you earn crypto as a rebate on your e-commerce purchases, those are not taxable at that time. You've acquired a capital asset. So if 6 months later you sell that whatever we'll call it 1 Ethereum or zero point 0.1 Ethereum, if you sell that zero point 0.1 Ethereum and buy
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin, yeah, it depends on how much you're stacking. One Ethereum, and you sell it for Bitcoin 6 months from now, then however much Ethereum went up, say it went from 200 to 250 in that time, you'll have $50 of capital gain in that 6 months, and that is taxable. So that's something you should look out for. Different from Lolli, they're staking, mining, airdrops, things where crypto is just coming into your possession, where that might be considered income. So you're going to want to ask your tax professional, and you're going to want to use software like ZenLedger to parse that all out, so that you can denote like, oh, this is Lolli rebate stuff, this is non-taxable. Oh, this is staking, that is taxable. And like things like that. That's what our software does for you.
Yeah, I really love this partnership. And I think part of what like can turn people off about crypto is like when they get tied into tax season and they like realize like, oh my god, I made all this money. Why am I having to give up at this crazy percent?
Yeah.
And so part of what you all do so well is this like is on the tax side and making it so much easier than going through. Like I remember the first time I bought like crypto and I had to do my taxes for the first year, and it was so scary because you're like there's all the air. It's like a super gray area. There weren't tools back then to really like understand it, and it can turn people off. Like when you have to think about do I want to buy this asset or not because the fear of doing the taxes down at like the end of the year, like it will stop you from like buying something that you might have like really believed in.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. It's hard because like thankfully you pay taxes on profits. So if things go up, it's a good problem to have. Like there's a joke like I'd love to pay $1 billion in taxes because it means
mhm.
that I have so much income and profits. Like that's fantastic. I'd love to pay tons of taxes, right?
Yeah,
But like yeah, I think that it's definitely a headache. We have all these funny stories of people who told their CPA that they're investing in crypto, and the CPA tried to fire them. And
I bet.
basically, I'm firing you as a client. I don't want to deal with that stuff. I hear it's illegal or it's only used for drugs. And then like, but that's starting to go away right now. You just see it on MSNBC, and everyone kind of realizes it's more like just investing in tech stocks for the most part, and then it's like a call option to protect you from your fiat currency getting away from you, right? And I think more and more people are understanding that, which is useful. But we work with thousands of tax professionals at this point. So, but I think there might be 1 million tax professionals in the United States. So it's still very early days.
Early days for sure.
Yeah,
That's awesome. What
yeah.
does the next 5 years look like for you guys?
I think we're gonna keep we hope that more and more people invest. I think things like Lolli, Cash App, Robinhood, Coinbase, like there's all these ways that more and more people are acquiring cryptocurrency and being exposed to it, and there's better education. There's not nearly as many pump and dumps out there
Mhm.
as there were. So I think the overall reputation and trustworthiness are also going up, and there's just more people that you trust to tell you about it, right? So like we always treat our customers as the first person on the block that really cared about cryptocurrency and did the deep dive, and now they care about compliance too. And the next person that comes into crypto will ask our current clients for advice because
Right.
and I'm sure same with you. Like, all your customers are very much on the bleeding edge of like e-commerce rewards and cryptocurrency, and they're going to be like, hey, they're going to tell their friends and family members about it, and they'll be the education resource going forward. So I think there's a lot of ways to grow there organically in the B2C space for us, and kind of like the TurboTax space. We've purposefully, as a strategy, stayed away from like the net suite of crypto, the B2B of crypto,
Hmm.
because there were just so few companies in the United States that held crypto. There's just a few exchanges, and I didn't want to go into an industry where I'd have five potential customers, right?
Right.
Um, so we stayed away from that for a while, but as that expands, our whole back end is basically the exact same engine and back end that you would need to run a QuickBooks net suite of crypto. It's just kind of like adjusting the UI a bit for corporate expenses. But the hard part of pricing crypto to crypto transactions in a fiat currency of your choosing, and ascribing that to some categorization and having that flow through, like those things we do right now or can do. It's just a matter of given limited time and resources and upside, like where do you aim, right?
Right. Yeah. There's always constraints, which makes these early days fun.
Yeah, yeah. And like people are trying in all sorts of areas, and it's really interesting. I think there'll be some consolidation in our like kind of in crypto fintech, you know, and then whatever like Lightning and Web 3.0 kind of unlock, that'll be interesting too. If everyone's online again and stays online like they are right now, you, the the hurdle to get over to have a successful business just comes down, right? If your addressable market's 50% bigger than it was before, or it's older people with more assets, kind of like 40, 50, 60, 70-year olds. So now like the addressable market actually increased by 5x or 10x, because most 20 and 30-year-olds don't have nearly as many assets.
Right.
I think the kind of like the investment advisor space in crypto is going to get bigger pretty quick here as well, especially if institutions start investing a bit as well. I think you're right with the volatility. Bitcoin's just banged back and forth between 10,000, 3,000, 14,000, 3,000, 5,000, 9,000. Like it has been all over the place in the last 2 years for sure.
Yeah.
But it creates a lot of opportunities for investment.
Agreed. Agreed. Yeah,
Cool.
it's an exciting space. I feel like every day is different, and it's just it's getting fun.
Yeah, I mean, my big thing too is like I'm a very curious person. I've studied in a bunch of different places. Like I studied chemistry for undergrad. I flew helicopters in the Navy. I went and got an MBA and worked in investment banking, and then I've worked in tech. And like uh, in crypto, you just see these very creative people who are not worried about staying in a lane for 20 years and going up a corporate ladder. And these people usually are well traveled, well read, very creative, very adventurous and risk-taking. So the conversations are always like really interesting. Like we could dive deep into college basketball right now and have fun there, and then we could go off into Austrian economics next. Yeah.
Yeah. We're
Well,
both.
that, yeah, that can be part two of the webinar.
Yeah. Yeah. The Austrian
But
economics of college basketball.
yeah, I mean, yeah, should they be earning money on their likeness right now, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I absolutely think so. It's not, no one goes there to see the college play. You go there to see individual talented young people play.
It's a giant charade.
It's
and
really bad. Yeah.
people
Yeah.
are making money off of them, and they're not. It's so sad.
Yeah. Yeah. Basketball is one of the few places where it's very clear that the talent, the earnings are extremely distributed far to the right. It's asymptotic.
Yeah.
Um, it's interesting in other places where it kind of drops off, like tennis or track or soccer. It's a much harder argument to make that the students should be earning that much, but I think in basketball and football, at least, you can definitely quantify that there's a huge impact there.
Oh, huge. Yeah. It gets really interesting when you think of just like if you could just systems that are archaic like that that have these like unnecessary rules, and like if you could just rip them out overnight, like what you would do. It's always a fun like thought experiment.
I
It's
kind
gonna
of
happen. It has to happen over the next 5 years. Like it's fraud at this point. It's a scam. Like
I kind of joke like, hey, things are the way they are right now because it's very good for some people and they're powerful enough to keep things the way they are for as long as possible, right?
yeah,
And that's how it always has been. It was the same thing 200 years ago or 2,000 years ago, and it's the same today. If you're a $100 billion company, then you've already done your lobbying. The tax laws and the employment laws and the IP laws are exactly what they need to be for you to be $100 billion company, right?
exactly.
And so you don't want anything to change because change brings in risk to your $100 billion company.
Yeah,
Um,
and so you have this like reverse incentive where they don't like the incumbents are the ones setting the laws, but they actually don't want it to be easier because then it makes their job harder because they're this massive ship that has to then move every year because of innovation.
mhm.
So companies that are coming into the market have to compete one to one with these incumbents, and so it doesn't create like a true like free market, and the incentives are not aligned with the consumer.
Yeah, and that's the weird double speak too, right? Like I'm an entrepreneur, you're an entrepreneur, and probably pretty economically libertarian, and we talk about free markets. But everyone wants to create a monopoly for themselves. Everyone wants to own and operate a monopoly. No one wants to just run a T-shirt stand in a T-shirt mall in the T-shirt district. Like no one wants to do that. Right?
It's not as fun. Not as fun. There's a good reason we're not in the lemonade business.
Yeah, so we all want to differentiate on something and become like the expert in that place. Like Porsche is maybe Tesla now. No, it's probably still Porsche. Porsche is the most profitable car company. They don't sell the most cars. Toyota does and Hyundai does. They sell the most Corollas and whatever. But the people who make the most cash profits are Porsches because the
Interesting.
perceived value, right?
Interesting. I didn't realize. So that's very interesting.
Yeah,
I imagine that like the margins of like Tesla will get better over time because their brand value has got to be just like through the roof. They
yeah.
just don't charge as much as a Porsche does. Porsche does.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the perception is there as it being a sports car,
Hmm.
for sure. And I think in Europe, you're getting a lot more of the Model 3 sales,
Hmm.
just because
Interesting.
things are much more compact. Like no one in Europe needs a 300-mile battery.
Yeah, that gets interesting at scale.
Yeah. So it is cool. I mean, it is very interesting. Well, cool. I think this is a good place to kind of wrap up. We've covered a lot of what Lolly is about and what it's doing for customers, which is fantastic. If you need any help with your taxes, use the Lolly coupon code LOLLI for 20% off. Alex is fantastic chatting with you today.
Yeah, you too. Thanks for having me on, and yeah, keep stacking those sats.
Yeah, keep stacking the stats. Thanks everyone. Bye.
Take care.